What's going on? Sunny here. And in today's video, I wanted to share with you an observation that I just made recently. And it's all about going from personal freedom to spiritual freedom and the difference between the two. So, when consciousness identifies with the body, right, this feeling of I emerges, this feeling of individuality that I am this body. And based on that, there's this feeling of separation, right? Being separate from all that is. So you perceive yourself as me, and then you perceive a world outside of you, and you perceive yourself to be separate and individually existing from the rest of the world. And so, with this feeling of separation, when consciousness identifies with the body and now is feeling separate, and now is projecting the illusion of separation, right? Being away from source, being away from being the one. Now there's this constant underlying feeling of lack. When you are separate, you are not whole. You are not complete. So the mind is quite literally born out of this feeling of lack. The mind is the feeling of separation, right? The mind is this sense of lack, not being whole. And so its entire because it's constantly projecting this lack and it's feeling this separation, this incompleteness. It is constantly in search for it. It is constantly in search for that sourcefulness, that true peace of oneness, that happiness of oneness, that love of oneness. Love is oneness, right? And so it creates an external search. So that's why, for centuries, however long human beings have been alive, we're always in search for external things to temporarily satisfy our need for wholeness, our need for love, peace, happiness, the oneness that we actually are. Because consciousness is falsely identified with being this separate little individual, right? So, now that we're evolving and the world is kind of really waking up to who they really are, it begins with this personal freedom where the person is still, empowering itself and seeking its peace and happiness and wholeness in external objects. So that is where all the create your own reality teachings come in, right? Law of attraction, get what you want, manifest your desired reality, do this, do that, get this thing, gain that thing, become this, achieve this. Anything is in your grasp, which it is, right? Now, when the person begins to achieve all these things, manifest all these things, create what he or she wants, that's the beginning of personal freedom. So, you could satisfy the personal freedom by getting your own business, making a lot of money, having a good relationship, living in a beautiful home, driving a nice car. That's personal freedom, right? Wouldn't you agree? So that's the extent to which personal freedom exists. Just being in a free country, living the life that you want. But once you actually start to do that, and the people who are privileged enough to do that, all right, who are fortunate enough to actually, and are willing to create their reality and have that empowerment, and they get what they want. So once you get to that stage of your personal freedom, you recognize something quite interesting. You recognize that you still don't feel whole. You still don't feel complete. You still don't feel peaceful. The mind, again, you thought that by gaining all these external things, you would come to this sense of total completeness and happiness. But the mind, again, because again, your consciousness is identified with separateness, with a feeling of being incomplete. So no matter what the external experience turns into of the person still feels incomplete, right? Unsatisfied. And the mind again projects a greater search. Now you need more of this, or you need something else. And so you can get caught up in this, and most people are, right? And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with seeking externally. However, you can get caught up in this, and you can continue to get more and more and more of what you already have, or get different stuff, whatever, different people, relationships, all this stuff, external stuff. And you will again and again continue to come at the conclusion in a greater intensity, the conclusion that you are still not whole. The next day still comes, the sun rises, and the mind projects that it wants something else. It projects that something is not perfect, and it again puts you at a place of unease, of unhappiness, of incompleteness, of unwholeness. That's the extent of personal freedom. Now, that's the beginning of spiritual freedom. When you attain personal freedom, now there's this increased wisdom that arises where it's like, I got everything that I wanted, and I'm still not sourceful, peaceful, lasting, just being. I'm still not happy. The mind is still at unease. It is restless. Why is that? That's when you begin to inquire. That's when you begin to go within. That's when you kind of start to lose interest even in the create your own reality empowerment teachings, because you understand they're fully valid, and yes, you can create what you want, but then even when you do create what you want in the external, you're still just where you were before, maybe a little wiser. So this is beautiful, because this is not something, I'm not saying that it's, oh, the search is doomed. No, that's beautiful that you end up there and then you're like, still the mind is restless. Then you go within. And the going within is the beginning of your spiritual freedom. The going within is the beginning of you recognizing what you are beyond this body and mind, beyond the sense of separation. It is you truly going back to your wholeness, your completeness, your lasting sourcefulness, oneness. Recognizing that even this is not true, right? My feeling of myself as this body mind, recognizing that even that is constantly coming and going, changing. But something is perceiving that to change. So what is that? Let me go within and inquire and be with that changeless essence. And that's when you transcend personal freedom and start to go towards spiritual freedom, which is the only real freedom. Because even the personal freedom exists within a world full of changing things, coming and going. Therefore, it also feels that lack, that anxiety of things coming and going, that fear. So personal freedom is not real freedom. It might appear to be based on the conventional worldview, but it's not personal freedom. I mean, it's not real freedom. It's not freedom from the mind, which projects lack. Spiritual freedom is true, lasting peace and sourcefulness. And that is ultimately, no matter if you care for it or not at this point, that is where you are headed. That is where everybody's headed. Because that is our spiritual evolution. Again, you are not this person. So eventually that is where we are all headed, just through different paths. Some more direct, some not as direct. And so what is my message to you with this video? My message is this. There's nothing wrong with acquiring personal freedom. That's also a part of this journey. However, what is ultimately more important and will actually also grant you your personal freedom, I'm not telling you to choose, but I'm telling you to actually open your eyes up to this. Maybe this is going to impact at least one person out there that's watching this and make them something will click in them. Maybe it's you. So I'm not telling you to choose. I'm telling you to recognize what is ultimately more important. And I want to direct you. I want to point you towards more of the direct path of this spiritual freedom, which not only gives you that real freedom, right, of that inner peace and happiness, regardless of what's going on outside, but it also is the beginning of your personal freedom as well. It naturally also brings you personal freedom. Personal freedom will not bring you spiritual freedom necessarily. Spiritual freedom will always bring you personal freedom in the long run. So that's why I also started to cover a lot more deeper teachings on this channel, right? As my journey is evolving, as you know, and what it's turning into. That's why I started making a lot of those deeper meditation videos and self-inquiry videos. I believe deeply that one, that is my most authentic expression, probably my greatest service to my audience and the world, but also that there's a deep need for clarity of truth, of spiritual freedom on YouTube. Not that there isn't already so many videos and so much knowledge and so many great teachers about that, but there's a huge audience for personal freedom, and everybody's seeking these external things. But more and more people every single day are ending up and realizing at the brink of that personal freedom where they're like, even this is not enough. For a person on the journey for spiritual freedom, it's not just enough to be successful, to be, to have a nice relationship, to have a nice car. Even like they recognize that even then it's like, no, there's something more to this life. It's not that I just want more stuff. No, there's something different other than the stuff that exists, that will, that is what I'm here for. That is the truth of my being, my nature. So if this resonates with you at all, if this speaks to you whatsoever, start with my meditation and self-inquiry videos. They will teach you a lot about the spiritual freedom, through which your personal freedom also unlocks. And that's also how I've created my accelerated reality program. We focus on personal freedom, and I teach you exactly how to create the life you truly want to live. After we cover how to start to open your mind up to your spiritual freedom, what is ultimately more important, and what is the key also to your personal freedom. Sometimes when we just chase personal freedom, we struggle because we don't have the awareness, we don't have the tools, we don't have the the capacity for even creating what we want, because we're so limited in our perspectives, in our rigid worldview that is conditioned. So spiritual freedom also is the key to your personal freedom. And that's why I always begin with that, and that's why I always emphasize this on this channel. So I hope that adds value to you today. This is an observation that I made recently that I wanted to share with you: personal freedom versus spiritual freedom. Certain things that I'm going through in my own life, in my own journey. Okay, so I hope you found that valuable. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. If you like these kind of casual videos, let me know in the comment section below, okay? I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one.